Thank you, folks. It's a great honor to have here Amir Kishon. Amir, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. There is Tony tonight. Tony is tonight, so I appreciate the time. Well, I'll keep it short.
You wanted to start off by saying a few things? Or?
Yeah, I want to give some fan facts, and I'm totally senile, so I need to kind of, if you don't mind, I'll read it through. 1 second. Some fun facts about the movie, but I would like also to thank you for the movie. We are in the last. He died in 2005, so it's already 12 years since he died, and we love promoting his art. And actually, there is now there is a new production of Salah in Israel, and we continuously kind of push his art. Now, I want to kind of give a little bit background about this, the whole movie and the book. When he was asked, when he was old, why he is not writing too much anymore, he said that he's already wrote about everything. He doesn't have anything to say more. But there was one story that he never told, and we spoke about it in this great movie, is that he didn't talk about the Holocaust. And he took my mother, which was really kind of a force of nature, to kind of convince him to talk about it. This was something that was hidden from us for many years. We were living, I know that there is a significant undertones of the Holocaust in the movie, but actually our lives for the first 18 years, I didn't know about the Holocaust much. And so convincing him to go back was really a crazy effort that eventually succeeded. I remember that when we went to Hungary and we were near the house of where he was born, and we said, let's go in. I mean, every one of you guys would probably want to visit their house where you were born. He didn't want to go there, and we asked why. He said, it's boring. So he did that. What really kind of, for me, when I was 17 and was kind of created almost like something, emotion, a psychological, I don't know, my wife is a psychologist, so I'm trying to be intelligent here, but something that I realized that something is wrong with the narrative that he spoke with us for the first 17 years was this meeting with this Hungarian guy. And I was remembering saying that he's going to meet this guy in Budapest. And I got to his hotel room and I saw him crying like kind of totally disseminated. And I was totally kind of taken aback, what is going on? And so then it was kind of little by little, we got him to kind of talk about it, and eventually it kind of came to this movie. I want to kind of stress one thing. I saw the Israeli 3-part series, and it had other flavors. There is a significant flavor about the Holocaust. And as I said, the very first 17 years, the Holocaust was not there. And even in most of his years was not there. The last 3 years was a little bit, it came back. But we had a wonderful life. And I look at my life with him, and he was not really the normal father. He was married to his art. He was really kind of in his room for 24/7, 365 a day, writing. So this was not the father that comes to school and see my plays. Never. But on the other hand, when there was a lot of fun things that were happening, and I also, one thing that is a benefit for being a son of a writer that writes about you is that I can always go to the books and read about what he wanted to be. And for me, how I explain it is that, and this is kind of, the last 3 years of his life were difficult, and what you've seen here was really kind of understatements. But for me, we really got to a really great closure when I understood that he really did his best. And one thing that we forget is that we have all the books about how people coming out of the Holocaust are really heroes, and they can build themselves. My take, and this is an antithesis to Man's Search of Existence, in which you say that people can really grow out of the Holocaust. My sense is that you cannot escape the Holocaust. And it's sort of kind of a dormant, something dormant virus in your blood that will come to haunt you eventually. And in that regard, for me, looking at the life with my father was that actually I love him, and I kind of appreciate how much he tried to be with us. And I also appreciate that he was not able to. But as I said, I have the stories to come back to and actually live, see what he really wanted it to be, which is a benefit. I mean, some of you guys, you don't have your parents' thoughts about how they wanted it to be. And we all wanted plan in life things, and life is something that we plan, but there are other things. So in that regard, it's a benefit. I want to conclude with one last thing, is that this series talks about how he loved work. And he was, as I said, working constantly. So I have now an amazing phenomena. He died in 2005. Guys, he's still working. The guy is working from is where he is now. And for the last 12 years in Israel, his status as a creator and his art is keep on going, and it's unbelievable. Just to give you a sense, the Israeli newspaper, Yediot Achronot, which is the premier newspaper, did a survey about who is the most successful or #1 creator, the list of creators for the country's existence. Israel celebrated the 70 years. And to our amazement, he was elected as the #1 creator in Israel. I always envied him because he got there. And I must say that I appreciate kind of his work. We are now showing several theater plays in Israel. By the way, there is a saying about Talat Blaumich, the Blaumich Canal, that will be done, a German production that we are working on. There are books coming out. It's crazy active, and I wish him that he will continue to work onwards and continue to amaze us as we kind of, both Rafi, Renana, and me kind of support that. And as I said, we look from a side and obviously promote it, but kind of wish him the best of luck.
Do you feel that he has more appreciation now than he did when he was alive, or at least the second half of his career? It seems like he took off really strong, and then there was a period where there was less appreciation within Israel, or so he felt.
To be honest, it's unbelievable, because he always complained that the media doesn't care for him too much. You could see that from the movie. This has been, in the last 12 years, he's been considered a classic. Just yesterday, I read that Blaumich, the same Blaumich Canal was elected one of the second most successful Israeli movie by the most revered Israeli movie by Israeli critics since the country's existence. So I think that, we see ourselves as cultural, taking care of his cultural legacy, but it has its life of its own. And yeah, we are continuously amazed how he's well received these days.
There's a lot to talk about here. Him, your relationship with him, but also the movie itself. Just this movie, I found to be just a fantastic movie. The use of animation and archival footage and the way it was told. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I saw you're the children are the first credit and the last credit. How was this made? Tell us about this process.
Well, one of the things that was difficult because he had wonderful tapings of Yaron London, who is a very famous news interviewer in Israel, and him, and we could not find it. And this is why you have the animation. Because we could not find those tapes, I still believe that those tapes exist in Appenzell. I haven't been there. But in the house in Appenzell, but once I will get there and try to resurrect those tapes because
so these weren't the tapes that we were hearing?
No.
Recreations.
Recreations, yes.
So these are based on notes that Yaron London took?
Well, it is based on the book they both wrote. And by the way, personally, I don't like the accent. It's kind of a thick Hungarian accent. And he had that, but not at that extent. So I miss the tapes.
And the voice of Yaron London is Yaron London?
Yaron London, yes. Yaron London is his voice.
As a writer, one of the things that I find fascinating is kind of he exaggerated the truth a lot. Would you say that that you find that he was depicting when he writes about the family, was he writing in a accurate way, or did you feel that this was kind of like, this has nothing to do with reality?
So when he was asked what is about his art, he says, I have a very easy task. I just need to tell the truth because the truth is funny. And so there are very few exaggerations that you will see. Every story in the book is a story that was actually something happened. Obviously, there is some literary wrapping around it, but it's true. And we all know. Truth is very funny. We are now just reading the newspapers. We know this is, it's fictional sometimes. So you don't need to work hard. Just tell the truth. I want to say a couple of, by the way, fun facts about him and the United States. First, his greatest success was he got to the New York Times because Art Buchwald from the Washington Post. Who knows Art? So, fun fact, Art was also an Hungarian, a Jew, and also suffered from depression. And by the way, talking about both of them and reading the newspapers recently about all those unfortunate situations of people with depression that committed suicide, you see those Holocaust survivors and those survivors kind of fighting their depression. They didn't let it win. And in that regard, I think that, Art was kind of the very first person that said that my father is the second funniest person in the world. Another fun fact is that Sarah, my mother, we are talking about three wives, Sarah, my mother, actually studied in Juilliard. And she was for about 8-9 years here in Juilliard, studied piano. She was a neurotic, so she could not play concerts, but she is coming. She had a lot to do with New York.
I have a lot more to ask, but we're short on time, and I want to take some questions from the audience. If anyone has any questions, I see a hand up already.
Thank you. I enjoyed the film very much, and also your conversation. I was struck by the fact that his third wife was speaking German, and I wondered if she was Jewish, and what meaning that might have had for him, considering the issues with the Holocaust in Germany and the German films and things.
So we were struck by the fact too. Okay, I think that looking at, by the way, this last marriage was about 3 years, actually 2 years, and we were very surprised. And I still need to kind of connect the dots here. I would say that as I see that, Lisa is a writer, and she appreciated Kishon. Ephraim Kishon was a very famous German writer, also famous in Germany, not German writer, but famous in Germany. So there is a father complex, as she said so. But it was on the personal side, and I won't get into details, it was hard. And she was not Jewish. And to get things more kind of interesting is that her father was a young SS, and a crazy situation that happened to me that I thought that was the craziest things about closing the loop is that when my father died, we really wanted to get to Appenzell and to see the house and see what's left there. And Lisa and my father was living there. And she was still in Israel, and I went there, and I knocked on the door, and it opened, and her father opened the door and said, I can't let you in. You need to wait for Lisa to come. And closed the door. And I said, that's interesting. This is a very interesting thing that my father, who is a Holocaust survivor, arranged for me, that a young neo-Nazi opened me the door and slammed it in my face at 2005. I see that, by the way, I see that to some extent also kind of hilarious. Yes.
Let's take one more question here in the middle.
2 questions.
We'll just wait for the mic so we can all hear you.
2 questions. I saw that the word boring is used many times, and usually when he's facing a situation that it was difficult. There was something behind the word boring that he want to get out of some situation. And the second one, you mentioned that the 3 last years of his life were difficult. Could you be more specific on that?
Sure. As far as boring, he always said that it bores him to death to write. But he was, when you live with a real creator, and he was you could see he was possessed. It was him personally bored, but him as a writer possessed by his art. So when I see him, I always see him 24/7 writing and complaining that it's boring. So it's there is some kind of a situation. And by the way, people that met him always said that he was looked and expected him to see a funny guy with jokes, and always met a very kind of conservative, kind of a bourgeois guy, and was a little bit disappointed. I always remember the disappointment from people's faces when they met him. So there is an Ephraim, the person who is a Holocaust survivor, and there is Ephraim, the writer and the genius that is possessed when he's there near writing his book, whatever he's writing. As far as the last 3 years, I hope you have another 3 hours so I can tell you the last 3 years. I think that the last 3 years is something that requires another documentary, because regardless of my father's life, I think this whole situation of an Holocaust survivor that became almost a household name in Germany. Ask every German or Austrian person, Kishon. He needs to be 35 years old or older. He will say, "Oh, of course," and then becoming a winner. Kind of the children of his persecutors are lining up to get his autographs. And then in the last 3 years, kind of revert back to the Holocaust, being a little bit detached from us. And as I said, it's a long, long story, and I think it has a corollary that it goes beyond Ephraim Kishon.
I'm sure the film, I mean, the film covers a lot, but I'm sure it also only is the tip of the iceberg. And even in those last 2-3 years, there was, we get a sense of something, and there's a lot more to share there. I hope people will be inspired and actually go back to check out his films. We have Ervinka online on our streaming site.
I want to say one more thing, is that talent, based on my experience, talent skips a generation. So I'm an internet entrepreneur. My brother is a veterinarian. Rafi Renana is a graphic designer. But now the younger generations are coming back to art. Alma, Renana's daughter, is an actor now in an Israeli Disney-led series in Israel. And Michael, my son, was just recently got accepted to NYU Tisch. We are very proud of that.
What kind of Jewish parents are you? You want them to go to law school or medical school?
Thank you.
Amir, thank you so much. Folks, there's about 150 people waiting right outside right now. I recommend leaving from on top and walking up the stairs to your left, or leaving